Hey everyone, Dave Morehead here with another finale tutorial. I was just thinking about how to make notation parts for drums, notation above the staff easier. And I was seeing a couple things online and I wanted to experiment with it to see if it was feasible. So what they suggested was to put a blank staff above the drum part and then put your rhythmic hits there. So let's try that method. I'll show you what they basically were talking about. So you want to go to the staff tool and then you want to left click, double click above the drum part, and that's going to add a new staff. And then right click on the handle of that staff, choose edit staff attributes, and then we're going to uncheck display rest and empty measures, and then we're going to uncheck a lot of this. So we're going to uncheck bar lines, chords, clefs, endings, fretboards, key signatures, lyrics, measure numbers, repeat bars. We're going to keep the rest. We're going to get rid of the staff lines, staff name. We're going to keep the stems and ties, and then uncheck these two, time signatures and score, time signatures and parts. Then click on alternate notation, choose rhythmic notation, and stems up. Okay, now we have an invisible staff above the drums, and that's going to be our notation. And we need to make sure that that doesn't play back because we're going to put notes in there, so we don't want it to play back. So go under Window, Score Manager, and then find that blank staff. And this is the mute column. So we want to put a check right there. Make sure this is little dots there. That means that this blank staff is muted. Okay, so now we're going to use Speedy Entry and the MIDI keyboard to enter in some rhythms. I'm going to use Jingle Bells as my example. So we're going to click in the upper part just above the drums. We're going to click up here, and now we know we're in our blank staff. So you can choose any note on the MIDI keyboard that you want and then enter the rhythms that you want. So let's say the horns are going ba 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 da ba 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 da ba. So we're going to enter that in rhythmically here for the drum part to let the drummer know what the horns are doing. So pick any pitch you want because it's not going to play back. Ba 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 da, and then ba 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 da ba, and then half rest. Okay, so now we have the rhythmic notes above the drum part, and if yours is a little too close and or a little too far, just choose the staff tool and you can move this up or down to adjust it correctly wherever you like it. So a couple things, actually three things. I want to change these, I want to change the drum part to slashes underneath these hits, and I want to make these smaller, and I want to put the ties going over instead of under. Alright, so to make the slashes, you just use the selection tool. Actually, you can select with the staff tool. Staff tool, you will click on the first measure, hold down shift, and then click on the last measure while you're holding down the shift key, and that selects the whole region. And now you right click and then you choose slash notation from the menu. Alright, now I want to choose this blank staff with the rhythmic notation in it, and I want to go to the selection tool, and I'm going to click to the left, so that selects the entire part. And then I want to modify these. I want to make them smaller and move the ties going over. So I go to Utilities, Change, Note Size, and you can choose whatever you want. I'm going to go with 65. And then I would like these ties to go over. So while it's still selected, I go to Utilities, Change, Ties, Tie Direction, Over. Okay, so now we have slashes with rhythmic notation over the drum part, and that was pretty easy, right? But the only problem is it doesn't play back correctly. So if you want it to play back correctly, you have to actually enter the drum part in the slashes, underneath the slashes. So I'm going to do that right now. So I'm going to choose the speedy entry tool. Make sure you're clicking in the drum part. And I'm going to have my ride cymbal going with a swing field. Now I want snare and tom to play these big hits. So I'm going to choose those on the MIDI keyboard. Bop, bop, and then just snare. Bop, up. And then I want crash and snare. Now before you enter a note, click the equal sign and that will backwards tie to the previous note. And then click on the snare and crash again and click 6 for a half note. Okay, so now all we have to do is enter the bass drum part, so we're going to switch to layer 2. And then my bass drum is going to be the low C on my keyboard. And I'm just going to have them play a 1, 3, 1, 3, and then I'll have them accent this. Bop, bop, dee, dot, bop. Okay, so now we have the rhythmic hits up there, which aren't sounding anything because we shut the playback of that staff off. And now we have the actual drum part underneath the slashes, so this will sound correct when you're playing back the MIDI file. So let's push the space bar and click on this measure and see what we got. Oh, by the way, it's not going to swing because I didn't add a swing feel, so you're going to hear a straight eighth version. Okay, so my prediction came true. So what we want to do is you want to add a swing feel. This is out of the scope of the tutorial, but anyway, just so it sounds correct. Go to the expression tool and then double click on this staff and then choose swing, which is set up for standard swing. And I also have it set up to display on the drum part. So now let us pray. Make sure it plays back correctly. Let's try that again to see if it swings. Right, so also if I wanted to put a fill on these last beats in here, what I would do is I would click speedy entry and then go to layer 1 and click in the staff above the drum staff, so make sure you're in the invisible staff, and then move your cursor over to this and push O or H to hide. And now I want to enter a fill because I'm going to write fill on the part and then the drummer's going to play whatever fill he wants. So I'm going to use technique text, and then I've already have one for fill, and then assign. And if I actually want to hear the fill, I have to put one in the drum part underneath the slashes. So make sure you're on layer 1. Alright, so we want to delete this by selecting it in speedy entry and then click delete. And then we'll put a little fill on 3 and 4. And then a tom triplet maybe. Okay, so let's try that. Okay, so there you have it. This is a different way of entering drum notation. It's a little unorthodox, but I kind of like where this is going because it makes it flexible to switch back and forth between the alternate notation and actually physically writing out every note that the drummer needs to see, and you can go back and forth. So it's very flexible. Alright, so let me know in the comments what you think. If you've got an easier way of doing this, I would love to hear it. And if you found this video helpful, I would greatly appreciate it if you would like and subscribe. Thank you so much.